I tell you what, a couple weeks ago, I was down in Boca at Founders Day, and Sean had Nat was sitting with Sean at his table, and Nat stood up and he said, "How many people here know Nat?" I never heard his name. He said he issued, I think the number at that point was like 800,000 or 780, whatever it was. I know he finished up at 830, and I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it because it was all over the phone. And for those of you guys that have been watching what's been going on around FFL, you know, there's been a big push towards telesales, and to see someone come in here in 1 year do $830,000 all over the phone, I mean, was very impressive. I was texting Frank that night, said, "Frank, there's a guy here, dude. I don't even know him, and he did 830 over the phone." I said, we've got to have him on a call and kind of share what he's doing and teach everyone exactly what he's how he's making that happen. So Nat, I see Nat, his group is FFL Resonate. I think they're working on his logo right now. So he's
Nice.
group's going over 100 grand. But here he is. Hey, Nat, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh man, we're very happy that you're on this evening. Nat, if you can just take some time, explain to everyone your background, how you ended up here at Family First Life, and then I'm sure we'll have some questions for you on we want to know what your schedule looks like, kind of what your mindset is doing telesales and the leads that you're purchasing and how you're able to put up that kind of premium in 12 months. So it's all yours, man. I appreciate it.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. I mean, you guys are, you know, we're instrumental in me learning this business. Frank, I used to watch your mortgage protection videos in the early days, and I can't be more honored to be on your call. So I started out about 1.5 years ago with Family First Life, and I'd had a pretty successful career. I was in financial services, and then I had a pretty big real estate development firm. And unfortunately, I ran into some very large entitlement problems with some of the projects I was developing. And then when the pandemic hit, everything got delayed such that I just ran out of time. I lost several large projects. The lenders took them back, and I had put all my life savings and my entire worth into that business, keeping my employees running for 2-3 years. And it finally just came to the point where I was running out of time. So no different than a lot of people here. I came here pretty much with my back against the wall. I was flat broke. You know, I had to find a way to make money quickly. So fortunately, a good friend of mine that I knew from the past was here at Family First Life and convinced me that this was a great place to build a business quickly. And I was used to a pretty substantial income, and he felt that this would be a great opportunity to get back to that level. And you know, I started out the same way everybody else did. I took my test. I started immersing myself in videos. Like I said, I was watching all you guys from day one while I was studying, and I came out of the gate. I'm from Southern California, and I realized that the leads in the system were going to be there. At the time, there just weren't a lot of leads in Southern California, and I noticed that there was these massive red circles everywhere over in North Carolina and the East Coast. So first week in the business, I decided to just borrow some money, got some leads, rented an Airbnb in North Carolina, got a plane ticket, rented a car, and just went after it. So I started the traditional model. I was running instant internet leads. I was dialing, I was booking appointments, running my typical FFL schedule, calling on Mondays, booking appointments for Tuesday, Wednesday, and doing the Thursday thing. And you know, that started, it started slowly, but it you know, it happened. I started doing enough to just sort of get by, and I ran there for 30 days. There were a couple times where I ran out of money again, and I was down to my last few bucks and had to make a sale to get home, and I did it, and came back to California, ran another month here in Southern California, and decided to go ahead and go back to North Carolina. And so I ran another month in North Carolina. And I think I was helping 20 to 30 kind of families a month, sort of that number, doing that. And, working hard. Those leads are difficult, as we know, but they work. All leads work. I would pound the phones and schedule my 15 appointments and do that thing. I came back to California the second time, and I started running, and I just was getting very, very frustrated because I already knew how to sell. I knew the math. I knew that if you could just get enough leads, and if I could get in front of enough people, I could make quite a bit. And here in Southern California, the challenge is just the traffic and the distances between appointments were so great that it just didn't seem very productive. So the telesales thing was kind of under the radar, and my upline, who knew me for 30 years, said, you've got a lot of experience with sales, you've got a lot of experience with customers. I think you should try this thing. And I did. So Thanksgiving of last year, or the year before, so a little over a year ago, I sold my first policy on the phone, and I never looked back. I haven't sold a policy in the home since that time. So it's probably been, close to, what do you say, 1,000 families since then, all over the phone. And I'm happy to get into details on how that looks, but that's basically my beginning.
My question to you is, a lot of people kind of go through the same thing, Nat, in the beginning, where you said you ran out of money, or you were just making just enough money to get by. What was your mindset at that point? Because I think a lot of people hit that and they quit.
Yeah.
They say, this doesn't work. How were you able to keep going forward? How did you push through that?
I didn't have any plan B, man. I had no other choice. I have an 18-year-old and 16-year-old children in school. I have responsibilities, and I was flat broke, and I just didn't have a plan B. So there was no option. I remember I got down. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of a bad run for a week in North Carolina, and I was due to get back in town and I had to get a rental car, renew that, and then get a flight. And I was literally, my Airbnb was coming up, and I did have a bad week, and I was down to I had better made a sale or two the next couple of days. And you just got to bank on yourself, man. You got to make the phone calls. You got to be willing to just do whatever you got to do to make those sales happen. And that's what I did.
I think sometimes when people ask me, what I went through in the beginning, that you and I talked last week, I was in the same type of situation. And I think a lot of times having your back up against the wall and not having any plan B is like the best position you could be in. Some of the situations, I remember taking the last $1,700 I had in the bank a couple of years ago. Frank had leads out on the Eastern Shore, and I went home and told my wife, I said, I could either pay the mortgage today or be the last time I pay the mortgage, or I can buy these leads and run. And I did it. And by the time that check cleared, I was selling policies and money was hitting the bank. But I think it's sad sometimes that people do have a plan B, or they have an out, because they never truly get to see what this business can do for them. So I definitely understand exactly where you were, and have a lot of respect for it. Frank,
Mike, I think way too many people have plan Bs. Like there was no, I remember you doing that, and you know the answer I'll give you. You don't even ask me anymore because you already know what I would say. But, and the sad part is, I think it's because people don't believe enough in themselves to do it. That's why they have a plan B. They don't believe in themselves, and that's really the sad part about this whole situation. So, Nat, if you could get into like what did you see? Because what I can tell you what I saw when I went, again, everybody gets something from conference. When I went to that first conference and I saw the people walking across that stage, I said, if that fool, and that fool made that kind of money, I'm going to be rich. Not that I'm any better than them, but I knew if they could do it, there's no way in the world I couldn't. Now, where did you get that from? I hope, and I literally, I hope you go, dude, I listen to you train. I go, if this fool's making that kind of money, I'm gonna be rich. Because that's what we try to portray in this business. Like, we're not special at all.
Yeah. So look, I've done a lot, and I've been on the higher end of life, and I had a very successful career. And I don't think there's anything, I can't imagine a better business, to be honest. This is like, to me, I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. It's a mental game, but I don't know any kind of business that you can make, the kind of sales you can do so quickly, the quick turnaround, the instant cash flow, the fact that you don't have to put yourself out in a lot of risk. That to me was the most important thing. I had put my ass on the line with, signing on personal guarantees and massive bank debt. I took some serious risk over my life, and this was like so refreshing to be able to come in, go sit with people, sell them a policy, get paid a couple of days later, and move on. I mean, I was just in heaven, so I think it's just perspective. A lot of people don't realize how good this is. And, I try to teach new agents now, and I'm struggling to do that. And some people just don't have the the grit, so to speak, to gut it out. It does get easier, you know, as you start to get better and you start to hone your craft and you start figuring out the math. I also realized this business was really just a math equation. I knew that if I got so many leads, I knew what my numbers were. If I just needed to get more money, I'd just buy more leads and work a little harder. And I just figured that out pretty quickly. So I just don't see any other kind of business out there. And I've been around the block a few times. And so that there was no way for me to want to kind of look in a different direction. But I understand it's frustrating. You know, it's hard to get over that hump. I've had frustration here. There's been times where, you know, maybe you get a little over your ski tips with things and you run out of lead money, or you do your thing and you're back to square one. I mean, we've all been there, and you just gotta get over those hurdles and be mentally tough. This is a very, very difficult business on your mind.
It is.
But it's not difficult for anything else. It's very easy business otherwise. I don't know anything else easier to make this kind of money. I don't.
Now, what did it look like when you went out of when you transitioned from the field to the phone? How did that look in the beginning? How'd you do that? What was your schedule? What did that look
Yeah,
like?
so my schedule and my workflow actually increased. Okay, so I think a lot of people come in here with the idea that they're going to do telesales and they're going to work less, or they're going to have to work as hard. I actually think it's the opposite. You have to work harder and more hours, and you have to spend more on leads. So it's not a panacea. It's not like it's going to be easier for you. It's going to be harder. But what it does do is it frees you up. Well, it freed me up anyway to be more productive. And so I could work more hours, put more appointments on the books. And that for me was everything. I didn't want to be driving around all over Southern California sitting in traffic. It just was not productive for me. So, but you've got to be willing to put more time in, because you're going to get more no-shows. It's going to be harder to close. It's going to be more leads that you have to buy. So, but if you're willing to do that, the rewards are amazing.
Nate, what kind of leads are you running?
Yeah, so I started, fortunately about a year ago, I started slowly picking off some counties. I do run mortgage, okay, and I do run file expense, but I started getting some counties that I locked out a year ago, thank God, and those produce. But I supplement about 50% of my lead flow right out of the CRM, age leads. You know, whether it's you know, age mortgage or some age final expense if I can't find enough mortgage. And I sort of moved a little bit away from the instance. But those work too. It's just whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you need to do there. But most of my leads are aged, you know, leads like anybody else are buying. I don't have enough mortgage to keep me busy for the numbers I want to do. So it's just a function of getting more. And I'm very comfortable paying $6, $7, $8, $10 a lead. I mean, I just think that's amazing that you can do that.
Ain't it?
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, now I love that, because, you know, take your mortgage mail out of it. I'm glad you said that 50%. Take your mortgage mail out of it, and you're using all internet leads. You're still Hall of Fame producer. So I don't want, you know, because we all know mail's dried up. It's not, the mortgage rates are high. So if you get a couple a week, you're probably lucky.
I had to double my work since you know, May, June of last year. I had to double my workflow to keep the same kind of consistently, just because the leads weren't coming in. And you know, it is what it is. You know,
it is what it is.
You
What,
work harder, or you make less money. What's up to you?
That's right. Set your expectation. That's right.
Right.
What is your lead budget weekly?
We're probably in the $3,500 to $4,500 range.
Okay.
Makes sense putting up that kind of premium.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's you done it. That's exactly what it would be, right? I mean, 3,500, cut that in half, it's 1,600. That's where I was at, and I was about 400 or 500 a year. I mean, it's just, it doesn't change. The money,
the numbers are the numbers. I mean, I could
right.
probably do more ROI if I were running in the home. I think you can definitely sell more policy and more premium, but I don't do that. I think that's why my numbers are good and why my persistency is good. Is I don't try to oversell on the phone. I think that's asking for trouble. But if I were in the home, I would be definitely trying to maximize that out a little bit more.
Sure.
So,
Mike, I could ask a million questions, but I don't want to.
No, we can keep going back and forth. We got them for a half hour, so let's get everything.
No doubt.
but I just think, if you want, I just, you know, the big difference is, because I've been on, you know, I've asked people ask me, I just think really it's a couple things. Number one, you got to be prepared to get more leads than you're used to, because the no-shows are just going to be higher. It's just a fact. or you have to make more phone calls if you're trying to one call close. Either way, you're going to have to dial more leads. Secondly, you got to be willing to put more time in. I mean, I'm working 7 days a week. It's just a fact. You know, I don't have a governor right now. Fortunately, my kids are old enough. I don't have to monitor that too much. And I'm in a position in life where I can do that. And the numbers are just there because I work probably harder than most people. It's not, I don't think there's any secret sauce. But then you also need to telesales. I think you need to change the way you present a little bit. I think you need to refine your message. Telesales is quick. You're going to lose people quickly. You need to be quicker. You need to be very, very succinct about what your presentation. You're not going to want to make a lot of small talk with people. You're going to be very, very businesslike, be in and out, and that for me works. And I try to tell agents that I bring on, if I would rather you err on the side of being sort of robotic than trying to be a nice guy, especially in telesales. That's not so true in the home, I don't think, but on telesales.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's just buying more leads, working harder, and you know, that's I hate to sound boring, but that I don't think there's this, you know, anything really that special that I do.
Nat, are you using a particular dialer to be able to dial your leads, phone burner, call tools?
Yeah, I did use Phone Burner, and it's a great system, but I did transition over to ringy.com.
Okay.
And the reason being is because it allows me to then go ahead and maximize those leads through text campaigns and email campaigns and a little bit more automation.
Okay.
And
So
I've got, what's that?
that sounds like it's similar to using Firm Burner and Zepo at the same time. It's just all
Zepo
built
is
into
exactly like Ringy. Yeah, it's just I at the time I just found it to be easier to deal with, but I think Zepo is a great system for sure. Phone Burner is awesome. I mean, it's easier to use, but it doesn't have that extra leg, and that's what I wanted, is that extra capability. And I do book a lot of appointments from leads that just go in there, they get dumped in there. I put them on an automated campaign, and lo and behold, I'll get some appointments out of it throughout the week.
So you're setting most of your appointments, and now are you set same day? I mean, imagine you could do same day appointments. It doesn't really, there's no rhyme or reason, right? You're just on the phone all
I
day.
just try to put as many on my calendar as possible. And you know, I do have assistants that help me a little bit with that, but I will one call close, you know, if especially on some stuff that I get, and that's ideal if you can do that. But for me, you know, running mostly mortgage, a lot of times that's just not realistic. People are working, they you know, and maybe they want to be with their spouse, and it's work for me to try to set those appointments. But I will tell you, you need to be prepared for massive no-shows, and I have a system to follow up with those people. It's nothing rocket science, but I diligently follow up with my no-shows and try to recapture those diligently, and that works. But you've got to be prepared. You know, I spend all day Sunday, every Sunday, I go back through all my no-shows for the previous week, and it's, you know, it could be 50, 60 no-shows, and I'll text all those, call them, use multiple phone numbers, and I catch those people and I'll close them. And you have to be willing to do that, or you'll get eaten up on your leads pretty quickly here, you know.
Yeah. What group are you a part of, Nat?
So my direct upline is FFL Grit, and then above that is Jamie Cheerios group, Living Hope, and then obviously Grady above that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, we had Nina and Hayden on. I had Nina and Hayden on our call a couple weeks ago, and they said same. It's a lot of follow up in telesales. A whole lot of follow up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's the basics. I mean,
How many presentations do you think you're doing a week, Nat?
Well, today I had 23 appointments on the book, so we're not quite done with the day. That's not normal. I probably run 60 to 65 a week.
Wow.
But out of those, I'm well over half no-shows, probably more like 60% no-shows. So, you know, maybe I'm making 20 real solid presentations, and maybe 25.
And then what's your closing percentage?
Pretty high. I mean, it's,
yeah,
I don't know exactly, but you know, it's, if I can get people and I'm actually, they're going to pick up the phone, it's pretty darn high, you know.
Okay.
It's 830 grand worth.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Dude, I like it. I just like how confident he is. He's very calm and well spoken. I mean, but again, he gave the secret is he's working 7 days a week. And that, I mean, and that's something right there that a lot of people go, I ain't going to do that. Okay, then you don't have to issue 800 grand a year either. But how about working five full days? You know, what time do you typically start dialing and what time do you stop?
So I start my schedule. It starts at 5:30 Pacific time because I do a lot of East Coast leads, and then I'm generally done out here 6:30, sometimes 7 maybe, but I don't do a lot of stuff too late. So I mean, I'm running all day. I mean, I'm 12 hours a day every day, pretty much every day. So, but I don't mind it because it's, you know, I'm here, I'm in the house, I'm working, I'm doing things, and I have time to do, you know, if I get a no-show, I'll go, you know, get to the gym or do what I need to do, or, you know, get some food, and it's fine. There are a lot more difficult things in the world than to do this business.
Ain't that the truth?
If you're mentally strong, this is a mind game though, that's for sure. It's a roller coaster.
Someone told me today, Nat, it said we should focus in this company more on self-development and the way we think than all the sales and so forth that we do. They said all that is almost irrelevant. And Frank, remember we saw the other day,
Yep.
Andy Elliott said that. He said he works on people's minds before the sales skills. He said, because if your mind isn't right, the sales skills are irrelevant. You know,
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe that to be true.
It's tough. It's tough. You know, there's no easy answer. You just got to be mentally strong. You got to work through it. The chargebacks are a big issue. We deal with it. You work through it, and you know, you just have to know they're coming, and it's part of your business. And if you can be mentally strong and keep working and not stop. I also think this business is a lot about momentum, right? I noticed myself. One of the reasons I hate not working is because when I don't, I could just feel the momentum going, and it gets difficult to get back on the horse. And so I try to just keep moving because otherwise it gets difficult.
Do you have a specific script that you use? Do you use any of the scripts that are on like Nina and Hayden's and
Yeah, I mean,
Brady's?
I just refined it down to as simple as possible. If I had to give any advice, get to the 2 questions as early as possible. What's your date of birth? What you got? I got your date of birth as XYZ, and I got your address as 123 Main Street. So, hey, this is that. I'm just getting back to you on the state regulated life insurance request that you made. It's just my job to get this out. I've got your birth date as XYZ. Is that correct? Yes, great. Is that and your address is 123 Main Street? Is that correct? Perfect. All right, great. Well, it's just going to take me a couple minutes to get this through to you. They've got us doing this kind of virtually now, and it'll just take a couple minutes. If you grab a piece of paper and a pen, we can knock this out. Just take me a few minutes. And I'm right into the medical and trying to do the underwriting. I'm very assumptive about it, you know, like they filled it out, and, you know, they filled it out. And so I'm not going to even pretend like they didn't fill it out. And I just learned that that's just the way to do it, you know. All the other scripts, it doesn't matter what you say, but don't pause. You got to get to those quick questions immediately, because if you pause, or, you know, you're going to lose people. And that for me is what was the difference. Once you get to that point, it's pretty easy.
I mean, it sounds like the same concept we use setting appointments. Like, don't pause. You know, very assumptive. It's just a
Right.
different angle. You're actually selling them over the phone. So, how long did it take you from the start of the telesale journey to feeling how you feel now, to where, you know, because when I got out of the field, Nat, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, if I bought this many leads and I set this many appointments, I was going to write this much premium. It was not even a question. And that's a really good place to be mentally.
It is.
And if we can help agents get there, it's a home run. But how long did it take you to get there?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. If you can, and I tell people all the time, just figure out your numbers quickly, and then that should give you comfort, because you just know how to replicate it. So it probably took me, I mean, I got out to a pretty good start. My business actually sort of doubled right out of the gate, month to month, over month, when I started doing the telesales.
Wow.
And so it took me about 2-3 months, and then I thought maybe it was a fluke. And I just kept paranoid and just kept working harder just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. But it took me a couple months, and I started realizing that I could consistently, you know, I started saying, I don't want to do 10 a week, families. I want to do 15 as a bottom line number. And I just started believing in it. And lo and behold, I just started doing where 15 was the metric. And then it became, okay, maybe sometimes you'll do 20 and maybe 25, but as long as I'm doing 15, then everything's going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
And I knew how much I needed to spend and how much time I needed to work to make that happen. Not every week works that way, but over time, it pretty much works. And it's averaged that ever since.